Let's talk about CBT, or as we might know it, cognitive behavioral therapy, and why this is the most popular evidence-based approach for therapy right now. So in this video, I'm going to tell you what CBT is, kind of what it stemmed from, what are some of the principles, the fundamentals that it's based on, and how you can even take the things that you would see in therapy and you could apply in everyday life. So to start off, what is CBT exactly? So cognitive behavioral therapy emphasizes on essentially cognition, so our thoughts and beliefs, in relation to our behaviors, and how both of those things have a constant interplay with our emotions. So way back when medical doctor Sigmund Freud starts emphasizing psychoanalysis, one of the biggest criticisms was it was very hard to measure. It was very hard to conduct studies on psychoanalysis. So to contrast that, behaviorists came along and behavior therapy. Behavior therapy was, we don't care about your thoughts right now. We want to look at your actions. Oh, you're depressed because you sit at home all day, you don't do anything, you watch movies, you don't have any social connection, you don't work out? Yeah, we're not surprised. So when they stem away from thoughts, later on comes this gentleman by the name of Aaron Beck. Now, Albert Ellis had some interesting thoughts too, and they were similar, but Aaron Beck's real interest was in cognitive therapy, which later on morphs into cognitive behavioral therapy. And all Aaron Beck observed was this. He thinks to himself, well, it's interesting. I see so many clients, and they're sitting across from me, and they're telling me about their problems, but it's as if they have a negative bias or a negative interpretation of everything that happens to them. For example, me and you are sitting down, and I tell you that this guy looked at me, smiled, and walked away. Or we're just walking in the street. He was making fun of me, or he was sizing me up, or he was laughing at what I was wearing, whatever, right? So I start telling you these things. And you're sitting there, you're thinking, well, Daniel, how can you make all those assumptions based on just him smiling at you? Maybe he knew you. Maybe he recognized you. Maybe, I don't know, he thought you were cool. Why did you immediately go to the negative? And what Aaron Beck realized was that these individuals who had depressive symptoms tended to have a bias where they only interpreted things negatively. So if someone who you look up to compliments you, the person with a negative bias would go, oh, well, they're just saying that because they feel bad for me. Or they're just complimenting me because they want to get complimented back. Like, if the world gave them a hug, they wouldn't believe it. So CBT says, look, when someone's in a bad place, when someone has lots of depressive symptoms, there are three things that we want to identify, or three things that stick out to us immediately. Views of the self, views of others, views of the world. What are the views on the self? I am a loser, okay? What are the views on others? Nobody cares about me. People are not inherently loving, all right? What are the views of the world? The world is a terrible place. And these beliefs essentially lead our trajectory and help us decide what sort of behavior to engage in. If I think the world is a hopeless place, what are the chances I'm going to go volunteer or help somebody out in need? If I think I'm a loser, what are the chances I'm going to try something new or apply for that job or that scholarship? Slim to none, right? So Beck is sitting there and he's going, look, a lot of the distress that individuals face are because of cognitive distortions or irrational beliefs or thought loops that are not necessarily true. And sometimes they're flat out false. So what I'm also going to do in this video is I'm going to talk about some of these cognitive distortions so that you become aware of them and that you can see them in your day-to-day life. And if you want a video that's got all of them in it, I'm sure they're up on YouTube. If you really are interested in them, maybe I can make a future video on it. But here's just one or two to get a tidbit. One example of a cognitive distortion that I talked about earlier was mind reading or telling the future. So in other words, someone does something, or someone smiles at you, or someone waves, or someone holds the door open, and we pretend like we can read their mind. This person did that because they want me to like them, or because they dislike me, or because they want to gain something from me. So we think that we can read people's minds. Now, we don't say that or we don't think that consciously. We just think, oh, we're making a judgment. I'm judging his behavior. It's obvious. That's why he did or she did what she did. A second one is predicting the future. Hey, why don't you go to the gym or to the dance or to that party? Because if I go, then this will happen and that'll happen and that'll happen and this will happen. Oh, so you have a crystal ball. You can predict the future. And they say it with such certainty that they go, no, I know what'll happen. If I go, then this is going to happen. Therefore, I will not go. When a lot of the times, it's not a guarantee that that thing that they dread will actually happen. Another example of cognitive distortion is all or nothing. Either I get the job or I'm a loser. Either I go to the gym or I'm lazy. There's no in between. So what happens when that person gets sick and they don't go to the gym? I guess I must be lazy. So what we recognize is there's a bunch of these beliefs that we have that are actually not logical and that are harmful to the way we approach life. But if we hold on to these beliefs, and furthermore, we don't recognize we're holding on to them, they start to influence our behavior and how we act with other people, how we interact with the world, and how we treat ourselves. The kind of self-talk, that monologue that we have with ourselves. And then you want to talk about self-shame or self-compassion. And life can get really, really hard. So what CBT aims to do is they sit you down. They go, look, there's 3 components I want you to think about. We have your beliefs. We have your feelings. We have your behaviors. Okay? These all interact with one another. What would you like to focus on? Or what should we focus on first? Feelings are tricky. Why? I can't wave a magical wand and just make you feel happy. Behaviors are simple but hard. Why? We know what we have to do to feel better. Eating a clean diet is going to make you feel better. Sleeping 7 to 9 hours a night. Seeing at least one person that you love. Spending time with them once a week. Engaging in something that you find fun. But it's hard to do. If you've ever been in a state where you're suffering from depressive symptoms, which at least in Canada, 4 out of 5 people will experience one depressive symptom between the ages of 18 to 30. And one depressive symptom could just be abnormal sleeping patterns. So you're tired all the time or you're not tired at all. Like you can't fall asleep. Or excuse me, you are tired, but you can't fall asleep for the life of you. You're not sleeping enough. A depressive symptom could be binge eating or not eating enough. It could be moodiness. It could be irritability. So if you've ever experienced these things in a bad mood, especially when you're not feeling motivated, it is that much more difficult to go out and hit the gym or to go see your friend. What do people do when they're not in a good place mentally? Like who here actually thinks, well, I'm feeling really down lately and I'm really bummed out. I should probably see a friend or probably go to the gym. That's what we hope you do. What do most people do? I don't feel well, so I'm going to go into my shell. I'm going to go on TikTok and Netflix and hide in my room. Just me and a cozy blanket. And if that's what you need to do for a little bit, great. But if that's all you're doing, and you haven't seen your friends in a long time, and you're not eating well, and you're not showering anymore, you're not changing your clothes, the problem is it can quickly escalate. And the further it escalates, the harder it is to get yourself out of that hole. So someone who specializes in CBT would sit down with you, and I'm going to simplify this example just to make it easy to digest. They'd say, look, you have a belief. You believe that you are not worthy of love. Okay. Did you know that? Like, were you aware of that? Has anybody ever said that out loud to you? And this person thinks like, yeah, I have that thought all the time. Or the person kind of sits there and goes, I've never actually thought about it like that, but yeah, I would agree with that statement. And the person would say, well, give me some examples in your life that support that belief. And they'd say, well, yeah, this is what happened, and this is what happened, and this is what happened. This is another cognitive distortion, by the way. And this is what happened, and this is what happened. And these all tell me that I'm not worthy of love. And then you sit there and you go, okay, great. Hopefully you don't actually say great. And then you sit there and you go, well, tell me some examples that contradict that belief, that would suggest otherwise. And then you're going to see the person sit there and they're going to kind of look up at the sky, and then they're going to look down. They're going to be like, I don't know. And if they're in a really bad way, they're going to have trouble coming up with a single example which shows them the opposite. Why? Because the moment they think about, well, my mom was really nice to me. We went out together. We had lunch. He's going to think, yeah, but that's my mom. She's not doing it because she loves me. She's doing it because she has to. She's obligated to. Right? What just happened, folks? That voice is coming back saying, I'm not worthy of love. So if someone is showing me something that looks like love, it can't possibly be that. They're doing it for other reasons, because they're obligated to, because they have to, because it's socially appropriate to. I only seek evidence which supports the conclusion that I've already come to. And that's why people who are suffering from depressive symptoms find it extremely difficult to move forward. Because all around them, they see signals that go, yeah, you're right where you should be. And the tricky thing becomes becoming aware of these things and then actually moving towards something else. Folks, if it was simple, we wouldn't be in this mental health crisis that we are in right now. The first step is awareness. The second step is contradictory evidence. The third step is engaging in behaviors based on a new belief. What if you don't think you're lovable? Okay, let's say you were. Let's play Fantasyland. Let's say you were worthy of love. Let's pretend. Just imagine for a moment you were. What would life look like? How would people interact with you? How would your relationships differ? And then listen to what they say. And, they say, oh, people would be kinder and they'd be friendly and they're blah, 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 and they do this and they do that and do that and do this. And essentially, folks, what I'm really trying to hammer home the point here is because we're biased and we're swayed to see evidence that already confirms our own beliefs, we don't see the other stuff. And sometimes we need someone else's nudging or influence or guidance to be like, hey, have you noticed this stuff over here? No, we can't do it by force. You can try looking at someone and saying, you're wrong. This is the way that it is. You're delusional. This is what's actually going on. A lot of times people just dig their heels into the ground. Have you ever had to talk about politics or religion with somebody? What happens when they're challenged? They don't get more relaxed. They actually get more tense. They get more grounded and they go, I'm going to tell you why you're wrong and why I'm right. As we've grown up, the experiences that we've had in life, the sort of parents that we had in life, led us to adopt certain beliefs. Some of them are very helpful, some of them are not. And the tricky thing becomes recognizing the most harmful beliefs and at the very least just becoming aware of them. That we have this belief. Like, if deep down you think, I can't count on anyone, I'm better off on my own. And you think, I can't count, okay. What happens if you join a club? And you've got your teammates, a gymnastics club, let's say, you don't count on them? What happens when you have a coach who expects something of you? What happens when you get into a relationship? And the part where people really face a lot of distress is when they carry these negative beliefs for a very long period of time. So when you're 23, 24, 25, and you become aware of a belief that is harming you, you can save yourself from suffering at a younger age than rather when you're 40, 45, 50. As always, folks, the goal here is awareness. And what CBT does is it brings all those beliefs into the light, and it shows you how they're impacting your behaviors. If you don't think you're worthy of love, you're not out there trying to get love. You're not on dating apps. You're not trying to meet people. Why? Because you don't believe you deserve it. So you end up self-sabotaging. And then you feel lonely, you feel sad, you feel depressed, you feel ashamed, you feel anxious, you feel annoyed at yourself. Man, I wish I was worthy of love. Do you see how they all interact, folks? Beliefs, behaviors, and emotions. I'm not saying you always have to start with beliefs. You could do any one, really. But again, the simplest one and the extremely hard one is behaviors. The tricky thing with beliefs is you have to become aware of them first. Like, what beliefs do I hold, and are they harmful? And then once we become aware, then we look at, well, can we find contradictory evidence? Then can we replace it with a new belief? And then based on this new belief, how is this going to change our behaviors? And how does this all influence the way that I feel? What happens when the person who thought they weren't worthy of love wakes up one day and really believes she is? How do you think that makes her feel? And she really believes it, not affirmations. Like, I don't believe in staring in the mirror and saying, I'm amazing, but then you don't actually believe it. But the moment you take someone who thinks they're nothing, and then they really believe they are something, and they are worthy of love and support, how do you think that makes them feel? And how much more likely do you think they are to engage in things in their everyday life because of it? And on that beautiful note, we're going to call it there. Thank you very much for listening, everybody. Stay safe and take care. Bye-bye.